Like, you got to find
Yeah.
exactly what it is, whatever it is, to try to break out of whatever, whether it's therapy, going on a walk, taking a trip, I don't know, like whatever the heck it is, like you got to find it. But also you got to want it for yourself. You got to want to break out of the hole that you're in, to achieve more.
Hi, and thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Aquila, and this is the Life and Times podcast, where we are on a mission to help those who are on their personal journeys of growth to feel empowered and to expand their minds. And we do this by sharing content that informs and inspires action through transformational interviews, storytelling, and real life lessons. So let's get into this episode.
Let's go.
Today we are joined by my friend Lenny. I am so happy to have you here on this podcast. It's been a while, but I'm, super happy to have you join us. So let's just start off by you introducing yourself to the people. Who is Lenny?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lenny Valdez. I'm born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I currently reside in South Florida, in particular Hollywood, Florida. That's right in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. But I'm a young, highly driven individual who's overcome a lot of obstacles really to be where I am today. I firmly believe in, your hustle determines your salary. So it was really a lot of, I put forth a lot of a conscientious effort into a lot of the things that I did, just to really succeed, surpass my goals, and to really achieve where I am right here, right now, where I wanted to be, all the way from Boston, all the way down here. So yeah, in a nutshell, overall, just, just highly energetic individual who's focused on just really exceeding that next level of his life and achieving and surpassing goals, and the grind doesn't stop. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us. And I reached out to you because I see you as a person who really just embodies hustle, like for real, on a really just high level. Like I remember when we was in school, because we went to school together at good old SNU, Southern New Hampshire University. And I remember when we were at SNU, I remember you working, to put yourself through school. And Louisa, she spoke so highly of you. Like she had the utmost respect for you and, what you were doing. And, while everybody else was, partying and doing their thing, I remember you were working in the mall. What was it?
Yep.
T-Mobile. I remember you working at T-Mobile.
Yep.
And, doing all of these things. So I just, I salute you. I've been watching you over the years, through your social media and seeing the things that you're doing. And I'm just like super proud of you. And so I'm super happy to have you here on this podcast. So let's just, I feel like you have a story that's just going to help a lot of people. That's going to help a lot of people who have came from a similar background, who are just trying to, see their way out. So let's just get into your story a little bit. And so tell me a little bit about, who you were, like how you grew up, where you grew up, and I guess all of that stuff. Just give us a little bit of your background.
I could go on for on and on and on, but I really want to make this pretty short and really in a nutshell. So overall, really, I come from a family of definitely limited resources. I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican, Puerto Rican mother, Dominican dad. Again, as I said, I was born in Boston. Didn't really have the most resources. My mom was depending somewhat on some government assistance. And my dad, really had to get it from the ground up, coming from Dominican Republic to the United States, achieving and chasing that American dream. So yeah, overall, like, the short answer is poor. I kind of was raised poor in a way, but wasn't to the point where, I didn't have food in my mouth or anything like that. I always had that. There was times that I did miss Christmas and stuff like that, just because we couldn't afford it. Couldn't do those extravagant trips as a family or anything like that. So overall, yeah, it really comes, I come from that neck of the woods there, but really a lot of that, as you'll see during this interview, a lot of that has shifted to the man that I am today, and the successes and achievements that I've accomplished today, up until today. So, it's kind of like all that was just fuel for the fire. and just the fire just expanded, and to the point where now I feel like, no pun intended, I'm kind of like blazing down here in Miami, Florida. It's hot Miami, Florida. Just because all that little spark that I had as a child, well, now that is really combusted into something really big, and I really feel like I'm truly, the fire's still blazing, but I need to keep going. I need to keep pushing forward, to achieve more goals. And yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you touched on some of the successes that you've had. So tell us a little bit about those. What have you accomplished so far in your young career?
Yeah,
Your
I'll
young
start
life.
off high school really quick. A really big thing happened in high school. Doesn't happen to a lot of us, but happens to some of us, that are in high school. But there was a point in time, at the age of 17, my dad, he was a little bit physical at the time, but he sent me to a children's home, living with orphans at the time, to finish out my junior year of high school. There was a little bit of tension between me and him at the time, so he felt that he didn't want me in the house, so that was the best place for me to be. But that right there, living with orphans and whatnot, really humbled me, but also opened my eyes to really seeing, like, you know what, it is you who has to make the changes. It is you who has to, kind of put your foot down and really, start sprinting, start running for what you want and to achieve your goals. And at that point, I really didn't know what I really wanted, but I know what I kind of did want, and that was to kill myself. I did want to commit my suicide at the age of 17. I mean, when you're not living with your mom, your dad, and you feel like they both have ostracized you and pushed you to the side, and now you're in a children's home and you feel like nothing in your life is going good, I really wanted to kill myself at the age of 17, but I said, you know what? I was raised, by my mom, Catholic mom, Christian dad. So I did know what God was, but I didn't really believe it, because I was like, why is all this negative stuff happening to me? All this stuff sucks. There is no God, because if there's a God, why would you put an innocent child like myself through all this stuff that I'm going through? And I'm in a children's home right now. What's going on? But I said, you know what? Let me do this one prayer. I will change my situation. I'm not going to let this define me in terms of who I am. So I essentially made a prayer to God, and I said, you know what, from here on out, I'm gonna go for it. So I was living in Texas. So in terms of go for it, I mean, like, achieve my goals, break out of this poverty that I was in. So I went to go live with a family in New Hampshire, a white family, and one of the old schools I used to go to in Londonderry, New Hampshire. And shout out to them, Dave Noftel and the Noftel family, for taking me in, to finish out my senior year of high school. I put myself through the school, and I was kind of thinking about college. I didn't know how the heck I was going to do it, but I said, I think that's the next thing that I need to do to really get closer and inch towards my goals that I want to do. And worst case, if I do college and if I can't do it, I'll just go to the military. So, so that's pretty much that part right there.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine, being that young, or, being still a child
Yeah,
essentially, and, going through everything that you went through. I feel for you at that age. Well, the younger you, I can feel for you, because, that has to, that feeling of abandonment by, your parents. You have to go over here and live with people who don't have any parents, but you have two
exactly.
parents. So I can just imagine you going through all of that. And you had mentioned, going up to New Hampshire. How did you get connected with this family? Like, how did that happen? How did that transition happen from Texas going
Yeah,
up to
good
New Hampshire for
question.
you?
So before I left to Texas, I was actually in New Hampshire already. That's when, so my mom, she left me, and I don't want to say left me like, oh, she just threw me to the side. She did give me she gave a 12-year-old an option. Do you want to go with me to Dominican Republic, or do you want to go live with your dad in New Hampshire? So I was living in New Hampshire for the time being. My dad, he when he moved to Texas, he let me go live with my uncle in Londonderry, New Hampshire. And then eventually I ended up living with my dad back in Texas. But then that's when all that stuff that just happened with the children's home. So I already knew friends in Londonderry, New Hampshire, because I already went to that school sophomore year. So I just said, you know what, since I know some people, let me just try to go back, visit the school. In high school, it's kind of cool visiting your old
Yeah.
school, whatever. So seeing old friends. So I did that, connected. And another thing that I did skip out, I was denied over and over and over and over again, friend after friend after friend. Like, yeah, I'll ask my parents, I'll ask my parents. And a lot of them did, but a lot of them was like, sorry, but we can't do it. That, sorry, my mom's just not on board with it. But this one family, again, back, shout out Dave Nofto and the Nofto family, they were the ones who kind of pulled through for me and said, you know what, yeah, by all means, open arms. And they allowed me to stay with them to finish out my senior year in Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, I mean, that's definitely a testament to your hustle and your drive to be that young and not to just settle for, the situation that you were in, but to say, hey, I have options here, and reaching out to see, and, being persistent, even though you're getting denied, but you wanted something different, you didn't want to stay in that environment, shout out to you for that. So what else? Tell us a little bit about some other accomplishments. So since you ended up getting into school, right? So how did what was that process for you getting into college?
Well, I don't know if I can swear on here, but to lack of a better term, it was a bitch. It was not easy. Yeah, talking about a young kid, you're not being guided, but you're just being told because all your other friends are applying to college, so you feel like that's the thing you also need to do, but at the same time you wanted to do because you felt to get out of this poverty. I was under the stigma, go to college and you'll be successful and you'll start making money. So eventually I got into college. In college, my HR, the guidance director, he essentially connected me with a woman named Louisa Martin. She was the head of diversity for Southern New Hampshire University, and she was kind of like the liaison to help students of color and or any type of background, religious background, how you identify yourself, anything like that. She was all about that. And that was pretty much her role as the head of diversity, just to make sure that all types of students from all backgrounds, religions, faith, anything like that, that you feel accepted and you know where to go to. So she helped me out, kind of pinpoint where I wanted to go. So going into college, I couldn't afford that. I'm a young kid. I have no money. My parents aren't helping me. But one thing I did have, I was already working for T-Mobile. And Miss Louisa Martin, she advised that I do a work study at school. So I was working at T-Mobile part-time, about 30 hours a week. And I was also working at work study about 10 to 15 hours per week. And this is also on top of being a full-time student. I was kind of paying off out-of-pocket costs for school monthly. I did a monthly payment plan. So that was that there. And then and also, I don't want to skip this really quick, but kind of backtracking before I kind of went into school, I really, 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 really like prayed to God. Like, I was like, I have no clue how I'm gonna do this, Lord, but if you really up there, you really care about your boy, you gonna look out. All right, I want to go to college, I want to finish. So next thing I know, boom, I got accepted to college. I'm allowed to start working in school. I'm doing my I'm taking care of my finances, my out-of-pocket costs and everything. And sophomore year comes, Miss Louisa Martin, she says, hey, I know these bills are kind of getting expensive. I think you should become an RA. So I was a resident assistant, and that pays for your whole room and board. You don't even got to worry about that. You're just paying for your academics. So that really helped out a lot. But I only had that for a semester. And then I got fired at the end of that semester because they found like a shot of Ciroc in my personal Ciroc bottle. So let me go.
That'll do it.
Especially at Snoop. Public safety. But anyway, so right after that, I went to Louisa Martin and I said, hey, they fired me. I don't have my money or the discount anymore. I do have to quit. I'm sorry, I have to drop out. She looks at me in the face and she's like, listen, enough of this pity. No more pitying on yourself. You're way stronger than that. You have way more resources than you think, and you also have me, and you're not going to drop out because you have a lot more to go. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I can't do anything else. Like, I'm working 2 jobs, I'm doing this. And she looks at me and she says, you know what? I'm gonna make a deal with you, and looks at me straight in the eyes and is like, I'm going to make a deal with you. You do not tell anybody. This is between me and you, but I'll take care of your out of pocket expenses so long as you maintain good grades in school. And we can work on how you pay me back towards the end of your schooling. And we could figure that out later. And right there in her office, I still remember, I just started bawling my eyes out. I just started crying. I just couldn't believe it. It was kind of weird, and it was hitting me from the soul because something reminded me. I was like, wait a minute, you prayed for this. You prayed for going to school and finishing, and now you have someone who's not even family. You barely knew this person for a year, not even. And she's already willing to take care of you and whoa, like help you finish. Oh my gosh. And right there, that was like another kind of like kick in the butt to be like, all right, now you really got to start running, because this is literally not only Miss Louise helping you out, but this is going back to your prayer. Do you remember the prayer of God? Can you please help me figure this out? Next thing I know, boom, now I have an answer as to how I'm going to finish school. So that helped me. It put milk fuel under my fire, and ended up there's a lot more in between. And I was really doing anything that I can to hustle, to make ends meet, to make money. I did a little shy Steve, and I was a typical college student, but to make money on the side, and because I was working so much, I had to sell some weed on the side, and that kind of helped a little bit, just the little ends meet. If there's extra food in my mouth, or I needed extra clothes or anything like that, it helped out to a certain extent, obviously. But I'm not advising let's all college students sell to make way. I'm just saying this is what I had to go through.
Yeah, it was a reality of the situation, and you're not the only one that had to do that. So, so it's real. But let's take a second and just like really just give Louisa some respect and some the recognition that she deserves, because she literally changed the lives of so many people on that campus. And I miss her. We all miss her. Wish she was still here with us, but the time that she had with us was super impactful. When I first came in to SNU, because I was a year or maybe two ahead of you, I don't know, but at least a year. She was working in the financial aid office. She was like the director of financial aid, and she gave me so much knowledge that just helped me, and even helps me today, like to be able to navigate that whole process, because my student loan package was a mess when I first came in. And also, one thing that she said to me, and I'm gonna say it over this on this platform so that it might help somebody else, which is student loans, never ever ignore those people if they call you once you get out of this, because they will, as long as you answer and you let them know, hey, I need more time, hey, I can't pay for this right now, they will give you an extension and a forbearance, give you 6 months, give you 12 months. I know people that have gone like 3 years excuse me, not paying their student loans at a time, but they never had it impact their credit because because of the communication. So that was something that super helped me, because I had a long period of time where I just could not afford my student loans. I couldn't. I had so much other things going on. And you always hear everybody say, "Oh, my credit's so bad because I got student loans." No, your credit's bad because you don't pay your student loans, and you're hiding from them.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was one gem that she gave me. But she helped so many people. And Lenny, like, I remember, I think Louisa introduced me to you before I actually met you.
Yeah, I think it was like
just speaking highly of you. She really loved you. Like, she really loved you, and she admired how you had gotten into school, and she knew more of your story probably than all of us knew. So yeah, she was really, she was definitely rooting for you real strong. And now I'm learning that she was like really pushing it for you, and I'm so happy that you had her, and now we all had her. So Louisa up there, we love you. We thank you so much.
For sure. Definitely. And going back to that, I know we're speaking about it, but the one thing is that that woman was very resilient. She was very strong.
Super.
In terms of like talking, I kind of was speaking about the fire and like the drive. She put a lot of that drive in me. Being raised, and I'm not trying to talked down on predominantly white neighborhoods, but being raised in predominantly white neighborhoods, you don't feel, at least for myself, speaking for myself, I didn't feel myself. I didn't feel being born in Boston and raised in Boston, and then all of a sudden you're thrown and propelled into a white neighborhood. I didn't feel myself. People were trying to touch my hair. People were making fun of my accent, of how I say certain things and how I dress and all that stuff. But that woman in particular, she made me feel and find the true me. And that being said, that also propelled me because that allowed me to be comfortable with myself. It allowed me to believe in myself and have faith in myself. I always thought for a second I couldn't do things, but she was the one to tell you, like, no, you can. You just have to. You just have to put your best foot forward and you have to go for it. And kind of going back to those creditors, like, they're gonna call you. You might not have the money, but at least give them something. Like, try to work something, put in the effort. There. So
yeah. Definitely. And that's something too. I would just say this because I feel like a lot of people that are not from Boston, Black people in particular, Black, brown, anybody, they feel like there's no Black people. There's no, there's nobody in Boston that looks like us. And that is so not true because in Boston, we grow up, it's a predominantly inner city Boston. It's like, the neighborhoods, they're all, it's all Black, Spanish, a lot of immigrants from different countries or whatever. And, I had that same experience. And when you came to SNU, when I first came to SNU, like literally there was probably like maybe 10, not even 10, probably like 5 Black people that were from this country. And then there were a few internationals. And it was crazy. And, and also a lot of the Black people that were at SNU they grew up in white neighborhoods. So I felt like, they didn't relate to me and Shaquanda, who were coming straight from Boston, and Louisa was definitely
she was like the link. I feel like
she was the made our entrance a lot softer because I went through a lot of that too. I came up to SNU and it was just such a shock for me. Like when I went there, I remember there was this girl, Shaquanda and we had met someone. This was during like orientation. Classes haven't even started yet. So we were at school no more than 5 days already, freshman year. And then we met these girls, we were like, let's start meeting people. So we just met some random girls, and we were hanging out with them. They were cool. I don't even remember who these girls are at this point, honestly. But Shaquanda and I went with them to it was just like a group of people just hanging out. And one of the girls, like this dude was saying something crazy to her. And she's like, oh, you better watch out because I have Shaq and Q here and they'll beat you up. And me and Shaquanda looked at each other like, huh? Like, we don't know this girl. Like, how would she even feel so comfortable to fix her mouth and say something like that, So it really, for me, that moment for me was very necessary because it put into for me, it made me look like, you know what, there's a lot of people here who probably already have a lot of preconceived notions or, have their mind made up about who I am. And I just wanted to be very intentional about not giving that to anybody. So, and I, at that time I was also very slick and, very smart and quick in my mouth. But, they hadn't seen it yet. So they didn't have enough to, say that. But I just made, that helped me to calm down a lot. Because I didn't want to give anybody that. But anyway. But yeah, good old SNU. It was an experience. It looks a lot different now. I think, once me and Shaquanda, we became tour guides. So I think that tricked a lot of people into thinking that that the school was a little more colorful than it really was. But then now it is. So I guess that tactic worked. But anyway, okay. So since you got yourself through college, with a lot, you got some help along the way. But I know after college, you've done some really cool jobs and done some things that a lot of people are like dream jobs for a lot of people. So tell us a little bit about those things that some of the things you've been doing since.
Yeah, I'll definitely kind of speed through it. All right, let's get to the highlights. But right after college, I graduated 2015. I actually switched majors like 3 times. So really, the 4 years of college actually turned to 5 years living on campus. But right after, the Boston Celtics, they were conducting interviews. They had a partnership with our school, Southern New Hampshire University. They were conducting interviews at SNU 2015, and they interviewed a lot of students at SNU. I was one of them. And fortunately, that year, I was the only one selected to work for their inside sales program. It was only about a 6-month program. Fortunately, that was a dream come true. You're talking about a kid born and raised who loves sports in Boston, and now you're working for the team that you love the most, right? That's your first job out of college. Like, I was, my gosh, I couldn't even, it was just like, thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Like, wow, like this is crazy. I can't believe it. So anyway, again, circle back. Think about all the stuff that I've come through. Think about the poverty. Think about, I've missed Christmases sometimes. I've been thrown in a children's home. You're living with, all this stuff that I've gone through. And then all of a sudden, I'm selected to work for the Celtics. Wow. So like, did that program. I had my eyes set on Miami because it was only a short program. So me and a buddy of mine, Chris, we wanted to move down to the Miami area back in 2016 when the program ended. We found a place, lived in North Miami for a little bit. We couldn't find a good job, unfortunately, so we had to settle for waiter jobs. That didn't work out. So, but again, going back to the hustle, we were like, you know what, this isn't working out. We have to go back to the drawing board. So I was fortunate enough to get connected with the Boston Red Sox back home. So I moved back after a year in Miami. I moved back to Boston 2017 to start working for the Red Sox, another team that, again, born and raised in Boston. I'm Dominican. Anybody who's Dominican can tell you that runs in our blood. So like, working for your team again. Now I work for one of my favorite teams. Now I'm working for the second favorite team. My gosh, great. And then the next year after that, 2018, even better. The Red Sox won the World Series, the ultimate goal of all sports. Yeah. Like, again, now bring it back to the whole history that I had from the poverty, the children's home, the hardships through college, and all that stuff and everything. Now I have a ring. I should have brought that ring out here, but now I have a World Series Red Sox ring. I have a piece of history from the Boston Red Sox. Nobody could take that away from me. It is something that I hold dear, and I could pass along to my family. Valdez is and was a 2018 World Series champion, but I didn't want that. I'm sorry. I wanted that, but I wanted more. I also wanted more. I wanted to go within there, but unfortunately, a few things happened. I couldn't find a position in there, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to start looking for other jobs. And next thing you know, my buddy Chris, he's like, hey, I'm transferring down to the Florida area. I was like, well, I love the Florida area. And he was like, do you want to come with me? And I ended up was like, yeah, absolutely. So I ended up, again, going back to the hustle grind. I was applying. I must have applied to, I think, about 100 jobs. But I think that next day or 2 days later, Top Golf in Miami Gardens reaches out to me. And they're like, hey, by the way, we like everything your resume says. You're in sports. We want to interview me. I kill the interview. I do everything right. They want me. They decided to pay me $5,000 for my moving expenses to move everything from Boston down to Miami Gardens, cool. Just to work there. So as you can see, a lot of cool stuff is happening. All of this stuff is just giving me more hope and more desire to achieve more. And it's going back to that prayer that I made back in the day. And I get it. Not everybody has a relationship with God. Not everybody believes in God. That is fine. I'm just saying I found a foundation. And once I found something, in particular faith, that I was like, hey, that I went from looking at death in the face, AKA I'm about to commit suicide, to now you're finishing college. Now you're working for your favorite basketball team, baseball team. You won a World Series ring. You're moving out to Miami. You're doing all these accomplishments that you couldn't have done if you didn't take your life. Sorry, if you would have taken your life. So it's things like that I'm grateful for. And that's why my faith has propelled me to being positive as I can, because just great things have just been happening to me ever since I just trusted God and his works, his plans and everything in terms of what's happening to me. And don't get me wrong, not everything was flowers and dandy. I went through hell through a lot of the stuff that I've been through. I've been to jail a few times in between all this. I think I went to jail twice in between all this, and nothing in particular. It was just little college stuff in between. And But nothing severe. It was like, literally like, oh, disorderly conduct, tech jail, bail out, like that's it. But anyway, I've been through, it's a few things, some family issues in between. But overall, the main thing and the point that I think all of us can come to agreement with is you gotta want it. You gotta want it. Period. I did not just want to go to school. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to achieve things. I wanted to surpass. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. Everybody who wants to, like, who looked at me and may have said, oh yeah, like, oh, he's not gonna do it. There was like, you can't look at me and say like, this guy is not putting in work, like, or anything like that. Like, that's one thing, nobody can ever take that away from me. I have receipts. I can show you exactly what I did and all the hustle and the pain. I could show you negative bank accounts. I could show you old receipts of my bank statements of how low of money that I had. But again, all I knew was one thing: keep hustling, keep pushing forward. Rick Ross has this wonderful line that he says in one of his songs, and he says, your hustle determines your salary. Well, guess what? It does. There's not one person that's successful in this world today, and they didn't put their best foot forward. I mean, it's like a lottery winner, but damn it, that lottery winner had to hustle and go out to the store and buy a freaking scratching out.
They had to step out on faith.
In order to get that million. I don't know, but just work. Back to Rihanna. Work, whatever it is, but you got to do it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And there's something that you said that we just can't stumble past. Like, you had talked about, getting into that dark place of wanting to, contemplate taking your life. Like, that's no small thing. That would have cut off everything. Like you said, none of this could have been possible. Bring us back to that moment. Like, when you were thinking about taking your life, and like, what was going through your head at that time, and what were you feeling, what made you get to that point, like to feel like you had so much pressure on you, or whatever it was that you felt like, it's better to be out of here. And how did you get through all of that?
I don't want to speak for everybody who has, RIP to the people who lost their lives to suicide. And my heart goes to those who have contemplated that before, and those who are contemplating it at the moment right now. But I think there's one common theme for all those folks who do think about suicide, and one, it's a huge sense of loneliness. And not in particular, because some people have families and or jobs. You have people, but you still do it. A lot of it is a sense of emptiness. Emptiness, I guess, is the best answer. You just feel empty. Nothing seems to work. You feel like just you're helpless. You're helpless. You don't have anything. And then being raised, again, someone like me who's, oh yeah, God this and God that, and there is a God and all this stuff. And as a child, and you're thinking about this stuff, and you're like, okay, well, why does my dad have to beat me as a punishment? Why do I have to miss Christmases? Why me, God? Why does both of my parents have to walk out on me? You start feeling this sense of emptiness, like, why me? You feel like, why me? Why am I being attacked? And I'm innocent. Why me? And I remember I was literally, it was weird. I was like yelling at the sky. I was like, God, you ain't real. If you were real, why would you do this to me? Why? This does not add up. It does not make sense. Like, but I ended up realizing, you know what? It's a lot beyond that. There's a reason for everything. And I think all of that pain, everything that I was just talking about during this whole video, the pain and everything that I've been through, that helped me really be where I am today. God put me through all of that stuff, right? He put me through all of that stuff, but it's propelled me to where I am today, where it's like, no, you're not going to settle for less. No matter how bad things get in life, it's not even warrants taking your life. Like, because there are beautiful things at the other side. The grass ain't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. Period.
Yeah.
So
true.
And as long as, and that's pretty much all I did. I'm not trying to talk anybody's ear off or anything like that. And again, I'm not trying to speak for anyone else who's contemplated or committed suicide, but it's one of those things that once you break out of it, or once you kind of like, find that sense of like, there is hope, there is something for you. Your life, you have value, you actually do have value. Because again, when your main sources like your mom, your dad, people around you, and you're not getting that care and love, you feel empty, you feel lonely, you feel why me, and you kind of feel it's just easier to just take your life. Because you know what, might as well do it, because if you do that, at least you're not going to deal with any of that BS and that emptiness anymore. You're just not going to have any more pain. That's at least what was going through my mind. So
yeah, well, honestly, I'm glad that you had that, revelation, and that you didn't go down that route. And because it's a serious thing. There are a lot of people who feel a lot of stress from whatever it is, and like you said, it's emptiness. There could be so many people around you, but if there's things on the inside that you're just trying to work through, or you just can't figure out, and you just feel hopeless with it, it's something that like you said, it's just it becomes too much, and you feel like the way out, or getting out of this whole thing, is the only way out. And I just want to encourage anybody that's facing that. And I can't say that that's something that I've ever had to deal with, but just know that life and everything in life comes in seasons. Think of things will always change, and if you allow it, if you get through it, even though it seems hard and it seems daunting at the time, but just allowing that time to pass, and allowing to just go through that thing, and knowing that there got to be a lesson in it. Like you said, you found the lesson in that time for you. I just encourage anybody to just keep going. Just please try as hard as you can, just to hang in there.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, I mean, I don't know if my information will be attached to this, but I want to be a vessel for anybody who feels lonely. Like, I always try to encourage.
We'll definitely link you.
I always encourage folks, like, you need somebody to talk to. I don't care if you want to talk about the sky being blue today and you really truly felt it was green. I don't care. Shoot me a note. Like, send me a text. Like, call me.
Yeah.
Like, I know what it feels like to be lonely, and I know how much it sucks. And I know all you want is just literally an ear. That's all you want. That's all you want.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I go to the gym, like, I'm not trying to flex or anything, but the same way that I work my body out.
Not trying to flex, but I'm a flex.
but no, the same way you work your body out is the same way your mind's got to be worked out. And I'm not saying, oh my gosh, take this religious route. This is not a religious podcast by any means, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is what worked for me. Like, you got to find exactly what it is, whatever it is, to try to break out of whatever it's therapy, going on a walk, taking a trip, I don't know, like, whatever the heck it is. Like, you got to find it, but also you got to want it for yourself. You got to want to break out of the hole that you're in, to achieve more. And at the end of the day, also, I think one thing that really helps propel me is the 4-letter word, love. I feel like the fact that I have so much love for other people, love for the world, love for myself in a non-bragging way, seriously, that I'm just too much. I have so much positivity and so much love that also helps propel me to move forward and to achieve certain things and to connect with other people as well. I can really come from a very humble place and show a sense of humility in all areas of life. I may not understand your situation, but I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to hear you. So always definitely utilize friends, family. If you have a mentor, like I utilize Miss Louisa Martin, by all means, go for it and do what you can to better yourself and to achieve the goals that you want to achieve.
Yeah, most definitely. Definitely words of wisdom right there. So I guess, just going on that, what inspires you? Like, just what inspires you to be this person? What inspires you to have the drive that you have? Like, what inspires you in life?
Yeah, so number one, God, and I don't mean to use that like, oh yeah, God, oh my gosh, he inspires me, and Jesus, take the wheel. More so like, listen, I was about to kill myself. So in the fact that I said, you know what, I'm gonna try this prayer out and you out real quick. Let's see. And then all of a sudden blessings just started coming out of nowhere and things I can't even think of. started coming out of nowhere, I was just like, yeah, like, God is definitely inspires me a lot. And then I would also say Miss Louisa Martin, going back to the lady, God rest her soul. I did pray to finish school somehow. I personally believe and strongly believe she was my personal angel, my guardian angel. Right after I graduated, unfortunately, the year after, she passed away due to cancer. Coincidentally, all of a sudden I leave school, and then it's almost like your time is up, or you did your mission. At least that's how I looked at it, in a way, kind of like, and she's, again, back to your point, she's impacted not just me, hundreds of kids, not just at that school, around the world, really. So, who's at least tapped and got a chance to speak with her, or go to one of her conferences. So, and then lastly, myself. And again, not to brag on myself, but going back to you gotta want it. You got to want it. You gotta hustle. And everything that I've been through in my life, all the negativity and hardships that I've been through, I wanted to consistently have Christmases all the time. I was that kid that I didn't have Christmases all the time. Okay, so I wanted to go to Universal Studios and check out all the cool stuff that I wanted to do as a kid, but I couldn't do that. But guess what? I just did it. Coincidentally,
but living it out now.
All of this stuff. I truly, once I have something in my mind, I go for it, gun ho. I just let me put my best. Maybe I'll drop a little prayer in between, like, yo, God, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but Jesus, take the wheel. Boom. But I'm telling you, as weird and cliche as it sounds, and we could talk about this on another podcast, but I have testimonies, things that are like, you'll look at me like, what? That doesn't make sense. How? But overall, all I knew is, I said, you know what? I want to live in Florida, for example. Look at where I'm at. You just gotta want it. You gotta put in the work for anything that you want in life. It goes for anybody, really.
Yeah. Well, I think, you deserve to be able to say that you inspire yourself, and it doesn't seem like a big-headed thing. Like, you've come through a lot, and you've put in some work to be able to get where you are and where you're trying to go, so you inspire me most definitely. So, I love it. I just, I love hearing your story, and just, knowing your drive. It's truly inspiring. What would you say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, really, not to cut you off, but I'm going back to, because you were like, hey, what are those things? I mean, I'll be honest. Look at what you're doing. That your support. Support. That's one thing. If you were following along with everything I was saying from my childhood all the way up through college, I never really had that until I got through college. Think about that. The support came literally right when I entered college. So it's almost like support really supports me to be the better person that I could be. So, you by doing this and you really trying to support others, by sharing others' stories and whatnot, that's great support, for others, for myself to keep pushing, to keep going forward. So I just wanted to throw that last part in there. The support really, really helps all across myself, yourself, anybody. You get support from anybody. That's just another thing that helps you that much more to achieve those goals.
Yeah, most definitely. And thank you. And I appreciate you. And really what we're trying to do here is really just that, to support, to bring some support to people, because there's a lot of people who just, they don't have they don't have somebody, they don't have a Louisa, or, they don't have a supportive network around them, but they can come to something like this, to this platform, or they can go to, other platforms, just find, positive messages and encouraging messages, and to look at people who are, who have gone through or are going through similar situations as you and have come out on the other side. And, or maybe somebody hasn't gone through anything, but trust me, we all gonna hit a bump at some point. So it's nice to, just be encouraged by stories of people who have overcome things. So, most definitely.
Of course, and we live in a huge world full of negativity. So a podcast like this, where it shares positivity, I think it's definitely great for some folks to put 30 minutes, an hour aside, just to really be in a positive zone. to just listen, hear some
Yeah,
positivity, and some good talk. So yeah, by all means.
definitely. And I would say, if you were to, like, if you're thinking about somebody who is, the person that we just described, that somebody that doesn't, you know maybe they're in a place, maybe they're in the place that you were. Let's talk to you, 17-year-old Lenny, who was, just feeling like the world's just crashing in on him and just, ready to get up out of here. Like, how would you encourage, what advice would you leave to somebody like that? Like, what's if you could only leave behind one piece of advice for the generation that's coming after you, or even, people in our generation, we're still young, but, what would that one piece of advice that you would leave someone with?
Got you. It's a good question. And I'm gonna really try to leave it general because I really want this to be something for everybody of all walks of life,
Yeah.
all types of backgrounds, all types of faith. So I really not try to use mine as much, even though that for me was a big deal. Um, you have a purpose. I personally feel like everybody in this world, everything in this world, there's a purpose for. You have a purpose, and what I mean by that is don't give up. There's some unfinished business. You know what I'm saying? And by you, it's kind of like I look at life as a race or marathon, actually, a marathon, because marathons usually longer than a race. But you live and you die. I mean, let's face the facts. You live, you die. So that being said, it's kind of like, well, you know, for myself, taking your life in between there, well, that means I only went through half the race or a quarter of the race. I didn't go through the end of the race because next thing you know, this first chunk of the race is the BS, it's the denial, it's the rejection, it's the abuse, it's the hurt, it's the pain. But what if, right? What if the other half of the side, and I'm not saying it's going to happen for me, Jesus hear me, hopefully you can make this happen. What if the other side is $1 million or a couple $1 million, or just somehow you just encountered just something crazy, amazing? Just what I'm saying is the marathon's not ended. It's kind of like going back to what Nipsey Hussle said. Shout out to him, former rapper, passed away. He was murdered. Unfortunately, God rest his soul. But he always was preaching on it's not the race, it's the marathon. Even though he's passed away, the marathon continues. It doesn't finish. So for the person who that will be in the position that I am, is you're not done. You're not done. If you think you're done, you're truly not. In all reality, you're not done. Your life has meaning. Your life has purpose, and you mean something. You really, really do mean something. Okay, I have passed. I'm 30 years old now, so 17, 13 years ago, but there's things that I have impacted people, and I have taken people out of completely dark places just by sharing a testimony or just being a support guide for them. Or for instance, like my girlfriend, being that guy that you've never come across before. You never thought that you can come across a good person like this or something like that. You do hold value, and you are important, and you mean something. Definitely. You are not here in vain. You have a purpose, and we need you here. That's it. So you're needed, you're loved, and you're an impact to this world.
Yeah, and I love that the analogy that you said when you started talking about the marathon, and, like, there's different parts of the race. What in my head came, because I'm very visual, so I started putting pictures to everything. But I was, when you're saying that there's like the piece where you're going through all of this stuff, like I'm picturing like one of these crazy race or games that I don't even know what you call them, but like where there's all these different obstacles that you have to go through. And I'm thinking, like, there could be one part of the race where you're running through, like, you have to run through the mud and you have to do all these things where you're crawling down like that. But then there could be another part where you're just racing on just flat clear ground. And then there could be another part where you're just running downhill and it's super easy. And, you know, the momentum is just pushing you. And then you got to run uphill and then it gets a little harder. And I'm just, you know, there's just so many different things that we have to go through. But sometimes, you know, you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop while you're stuck in the mud. You know, you don't want to stop in the mud. Just keep running. It's gonna, you know, you're gonna get to a easier path.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate it. And, you know, honestly, you sharing your story has been super inspiring to me. Like you make me want to up my hustle and up my drive and all of that. So I thank you. Is there anything that you want to leave everybody with before we wrap up?
Overall, kind of going back to the hustle, you know, you gotta want it. You know, anything, and I'm not saying you gotta, for that business that you want to open, you gotta want everything about the business and all the bells and whistles. It could be anything. If you want to be, I don't know, the best dog walker, you better start pacing a little harder. Like, I don't know, like do something, just want it. Like, you know, go for it. Hustle. But also, nobody likes to lose. When we play a video game, when we play a sports game, the goal is to win. And I think what helped me out personally is that I'm not saying that I compete against everybody, but having that competitive mindset, the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, I want to win, I want to achieve, I want more. It's almost like, it's like the real thing that I'll leave it right here, right now. The real deal, it's really you versus you. That's it. It's not you versus anybody or your neighbor or your enemy or family. It is really you versus you. That's it. So really, I'm not saying literally look at yourself in the mirror, but really take a step back and really look at those flaws that you might have. Look at the areas that you might present and hold yourself accountable. You got to hold yourself accountable. I always hold myself accountable. When I slack on something, I can list 5 negative things about me right off the bat, like literally. But how can I get better if I do not know those things? How can I get better if I do not hold myself accountable to those things? It goes back to the circle, like you gotta want it for yourself. It is you battling you. That is it. So, and if you think about it, if you're trying to win against you, right? Lenny's trying to win against Lenny. Well, Lenny's not going to want to lose, so Lenny's going to try to win. So he's going to push back on this Lenny. And that Lenny wants to win, so he's going to push back on this Lenny. So the point that I'm trying to make there is you're slowly but surely trying to win. And that's all the mentality that you have. You're just trying to get better. Because it's like you're not going to lose to yourself. You're trying to win against yourself. So really, all you're looking for is, let me try to win. Let me try to be better. What resource can I use? Do I have to go to therapy for this? Do I have to see my psychiatrist and talk to this? Do I have to tell my girlfriend I love you a couple more times throughout the day? Do I have to, I don't know, do a couple extra push-ups or bench presses when I'm at the gym because I want to get bigger and better? You got to want it. It is you versus you. And that is the biggest battle that you'll have against anything in this world. It is you versus you.
Yeah, that was so powerful. The you versus you. Definitely. I love that. I love that so much. And honestly, this is speaking so much life into me. I started this podcast to help other people, but I think I think it's helping myself a lot because you're speaking to me right now. So I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. I thank you for inspiring the people and inspiring me and sharing your story. And I just, I hope that you continue to, be blessed on your journey.
And to that, yeah, I'll leave it with this one last thing. And the reality is, you help me because this is not something I think about all the time. So in all reality, you're helping me as well because you're helping me go back and say, hey, look, this is the stuff that you've accomplished. This is how you're impacting me. And technically, this podcast, I feel like it helps everybody who's in participation. You're bouncing things off of each other and whatnot. You're maybe motivating somebody else. So in all reality, thank you for even for conducting this podcast and for really being a woman of the people. So you're doing what I think is amazing for everyone, myself included. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you. All right. Well, that's wraps up this episode. I hope that you all were as inspired as I am, to just keep going and to, fight the battle. It's you versus you, stand in your purpose and to be encouraged no matter what you're going through, that there's, the grass is going to be greener wherever you water it. So continue to water that grass. Continue to keep pushing and you'll get through it.
Absolutely.
All right,
All right,
everybody.
everyone.
Peace.